Welcome to Podlygamists, the Sister Wives Rewatch podcast.
We sit down each week and recap an episode of TLC's longest-running reality show, following the Browns, a Mormon polygamous family originating in Lehi, Utah.
I'm Samantha Kaiser.
And I'm Hailey Graff.
And this is Podlygamists,
Season 2, Episode 6.
So I feel like we came off a high of two really good episodes, and this one was a little bit like unclear what the main focus was. Seemed like we used the word colonoscopy upwards of 150 times. Like, it just, it was just wasn't going in any real direction. It was good. It was fine. But after those last two, it just felt a little like, that's it.
I was surprised they didn't name it First Wife Gets a Colonoscopy.
Yeah, they chose to focus on the party, which was maybe the smallest aspect. Like, it was barely a part of the episode.
Yeah.
As far as like time.
Yeah.
But
that's why I was surprised how little we got to see the party that they hyped the whole episode.
Yeah, it wasn't much going on. I mean, it was not. I don't know. We'll get to it. I mean, it was nice. It was just sort of like, I feel like we're in a transition because it seems like next week we're gonna get into some shit, get into some like drama maybe, or start getting towards where things hit the fan with like police and legality and all that kind of stuff. So maybe it was just like, well, we need one more episode. Let's hodgepodge the colonoscopy and the party together. That I'm sure the party that was thrown for the show, right? Like it was a plot point for the show,
right? I can't imagine.
Like, I don't think they just wanted to have their own little party with random strangers who don't know each other.
Well, because I was thinking that too when they were they're planning this whole thing, and I was like, I could not see myself doing this. And yes, again, I'm very introverted, so I don't care to have a huge dinner party, but I just could not see myself having the energy to do this, especially with having 20 kids.
Yeah, and like it's that thing of like, I didn't have a graduation party, but all the ones that I attended were like the weirdest thing, because it's like your childhood neighbor and your grandma and your friends from high school and maybe some teachers. Like, it's like all these people who don't know each other all like gathered around to like stare at you alone because you're the one thing they have in common. Yeah. Kind of like a wedding can be that way too, depending. But you know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, what if these people have nothing in common with each other besides that they know you?
It's just weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was weird too. But I feel like a dinner party is a thing is just a thing that's not part of our generation per se. Maybe
no,
I'm wrong.
Like if I've done anytime I've done like group gatherings, it's been like, oh, game night or something. Like you're doing something. It's not been like, I'm hosting a formal dinner party. Like first off, I can't cook that well to do it.
Yeah, with like banquet style seating and like, I mean, it seemed nice. It seemed like we'll get to it, but it was just like, this is a bizarre plot point, I guess. And that's what we opened the episode. I mean, the episode is titled "Polygamist Party," and the like little informational blurb is, the wives invite their monogamous friends over for dinner. But again, I think that takes up like a total of 3 minutes of this episode.
Yeah,
but whatever. They kind of open up the episode with just Cody and Meri explaining that they kind of have barriers between them and their monogamous friends, and this is like they're coming out now that they're public. Like, they feel comfortable kind of becoming friends with these, or being closer to these people that they felt like they couldn't really let into their lives so much in the past.
Yeah, I've never really thought about that before, but it was, Meri was kind of talking about like, oh, I've had friends at work and stuff, and I've kind of just sort of kept them at a distance. Like, it's not like they'd ever stop by or anything. So, I mean, she's probably not necessarily going out like to brunch or something with these friends either, because they wouldn't ask too much, I guess, about your personal life. Because like, once you start talking about it, I mean, how could you not mention all of your kids when they know just like Mariah, maybe? So that just really limits them.
Yeah. Like, she has to always remember to just talk about Mariah and not like the other 15 kids that she cares for. And like, yeah, that is weird. Like, yeah, my kid, you just have to keep saying my daughter, my kid. I could just see it being easier to just stick to like minimizing friendships with people who you don't know if you can trust. Like at work, at work you don't know who you can trust necessarily. Like
Mhm.
it's especially if she was in like a school setting, like we kind of hypothesized she was in a school setting, like she just got to keep it close to the chest, especially because they all have that kind of trauma,
Mhm.
generational trauma, or whatever you want to call it, of like their family, they're historically being persecuted, having their families split up, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're in a public school setting potentially that a word would spread fast, and you don't know if there's gonna be some kind of policy, which ended up maybe being why she isn't employed there anymore in the first place. So I don't know, interesting, but that's really not the start. The start of this episode is not really the party.
Nope.
It's Meri's colonoscopy, of course.
Starts out on a real low note, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of talked about Mary's sister in the past
Hmm.
who passed away. Um, and she passed away from colon cancer at 31 or 32. Did I get
No.
that right? So young. Um, and so and that was about 6 years ago from when this is happening now. So Meri is saying since then, her siblings have been told you should all get screened, and she's been putting it off for 6 years.
Which I totally get why you would put it off, and it's because of fear, obviously. But oh my, I mean, and the fact that like later on she does it, like all of her siblings have been screened and everything, and they've all had polyps and stuff, and it's like you need to go see, make sure you're okay too. Like I just, that's so hard. Ugh.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that, and she's not 31. You know, she's definitely past. I don't know if she's yet 40 yet or so, but like for that to be like a surprisingly young age, like every year, it's like it's less and less
Mm-hmm.
of a surprisingly young age to get that disease.
Yeah.
And they talk about how hard it is to detect, and basically you have to get a colonoscopy in order to detect it. And I didn't think to look this up, but what is the average? Because there is an age. Is it 50 where you're like that's part of your regular maintenance of medical care? Is you should
I
get a colonoscopy?
think they just recently lowered it to like 45. I
Okay.
think, but
And that's all precautionary to
mhm.
avoid getting cancer. So the fact that her sister got it at 31, it's like there was no way to know until it turns out it was too late, and she
Yeah,
had lived only 11 months it passed when she was diagnosed.
yeah,
So I guess this is a colon care awareness episode as well as a
for sure.
um
Get screened, especially if it's in your family. So,
yeah, I mean that's really the focus of this episode. We talk about Teresa, her sister, and that does open up this conversation about that they've kind of had before about what happens when a sister wife passes away. Like one of the givens or the benefits of their culture is that I guess the other sisters just kind of sister wives kind of like take in the kids. Um, it's it's hard to understand as someone who doesn't have parents that are. I don't have three moms and the dad. You know what I mean? Because to me, it's like they're like, oh yeah, normally the kid would go to the grandma or to the aunt, and it's like, yeah, that seems like that's where they should go. But I guess the dad is still because they can't
yeah.
just go to just Cody because Cody can't take. I mean, in this case, it's just Mariah. In theory, if
Mhm.
Meri were to pass away, that would mean that Cody has Mariah with his rotations.
Mhm.
So one of the sister wives kind of has to take on the kids. Like it can't be the dad full time like it normally would be if a husband and wife have a child and the wife passes away,
The dad would just be there.
the dad just keeps the kids, obviously.
Mhm.
But like, isn't that just an interesting like?
It
It's
is.
almost more complicated because you can't just be your dad's kid. Like one of the other wives has to adopt you, but at the same time, you look at those women as a mom already, so maybe it's not so weird. But it just seems like a. Do you get where I'm going
Yeah,
with this?
like it's. I don't know. It's just because we don't think about it that much. I mean, I don't know if they do in like Mormon polygamist culture. I don't know if they do godparents or anything like that.
Yeah,
Given that they already have like a built-in set of godparents. But
yeah, that's a good point.
but I mean, and maybe they do have that as like an even further contingency plan. God forbid. I don't know, but it's just that's you make it easy. I think when you're designating godparents to your kids in Christian or any other normal culture that does like normal. Any other different culture that does like godparents, I don't know, it just makes it like more simple in that regard. But I guess
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's weird either way. I think.
Isn't it weird and this is a tangent also, but like to imagine if they have, assuming they do have godparents still in the mix,
Mm-hmm.
like where it's like their
An
an aunt or
answer.
uncle or a very close friend or whoever,
Mm-hmm.
like you got to run out of options real quick. If you have 6 kids and like they all share the dad, so the dad's guy is like, I'm out of brothers. They all have 2 of you already. We can't. Like I don't know. We're out of like. Do you resort to the neighbor pretty quickly? It's
Right.
like when you're down to truly brown. Like,
You're like, sorry, I can't find like 20 different people for you.
so yeah. I just think I don't know. That would be. I guess when you have a lot of siblings, you that gives you some options, but it's just kind of
Yeah,
funny.
like some of them when the siblings are getting to be like adults, when the other ones are still little, I guess could legally
True.
take them in. Emotionally, probably wouldn't be
Hmm.
great, but
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe a silly tangent, but just kind of like just pointing out like the basics of like when you're born, you get a godparent. Like even not in a religious sense, it's just like it's like someone who is designated as a close person to you from like you're a little baby.
you know who my
And
godparents were? I don't know what the hell my parents were thinking because I mean, thank heavens, like it never had to act on this or anything because this would have been horrible godparents. They picked my half brother, who's 14 years older than me, as a godfather, and then they picked my one of my cousins, who I'm not close with today and never was close with because he was always like 10, 12 years older than me, but just picked
right.
those two as godfathers and picked no one else. And they both at
Well, how
the
does that
time were
work?
like teenagers when I
Like
was a
young?
baby. I'm like, why would you choose? Why wouldn't you choose like my aunts or something? Like they have siblings. Now, why didn't you choose that? But they chose my brother and my cousin.
2 males who are not like
Not even
in a
related.
partnership. Yeah.
It's like, okay,
That is does Lisa have the same ones?
yeah, my sister. Yeah, they just picked both of those for us. Like how
Strange.
neither one of them would have been prepared to be raising babies. Like, what were you doing?
Here's a hot take that like I feel like people sometimes forget though. Like godparentship is not a legally binding
Yeah,
contract. I think it's usually honorary. Like we love you and we want you to feel like attached to this kid or something.
yeah.
But like I've heard people. I have probably shouldn't get into this. It's in case they listen, but, I've had people get real like up in arms about godparents ship, and I'm like, that's got nothing to do with the document. Like they're
Yeah,
not
you
gonna
didn't
say
sign anything.
when your parents pass, heaven forbid,
Mhm.
they're not gonna be like, okay, so who did they verbally agree was the
Yeah,
godparent? That's not.
yeah.
That's not gonna be your 14-year-old half brother.
No, I'm like that was just such a
Like
ridiculous.
the last person.
He's like, oh my god, what now?
Yeah, an
Twins.
infant. Twins. Yeah, twins.
God.
So, anyways, tangent, but
But it's made more
um,
complicated, I guess. Talking about with
yes.
Robin and her kids that she's saying like if something happened to her, it wouldn't just be so easy that they'd go with like Cody and company. They have a biological dad in the picture that they maybe would go to instead. So
In her reaction, she seems like pretty like that realization kind of stresses her out. So like, we've kind of been like, where is their relationship at? Like, is he a part of their family? Is he not? I mean, they make it sound like he would want them, because like if he's just out of the picture, peace out, not interested, he wouldn't be getting them.
yeah,
Um, but they must not have a good relationship, or else you would think she would be like, yes, I want them to go to their dad. And later they get legally adopted into this. I mean, spoiler,
yeah.
they become like full brown family
Mhm.
kids, so like they must not be really involved with him. But I did think it was sweet, knowing how Christine has struggled with Robin, for her to be like, "No, that just made me really sad. I would totally fight for them. I would totally fight for them. Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, and Christine has this. She's theatric. This is how I think of her always. The way she communicates is so like, to me, if I just met her, I'd be like, you're so full of like you're such a phony, because the way she's so like expressive and so like, are you kidding me? Like I would just know, I'm like, no one talks like this. But now that I like have seen her
Mhm.
enough, Like that is how she communicates.
Yeah.
And she meant that down to her like little soul. And I was just like, oh, that's so sweet. I'm sure even though Robin was clearly like distressed, like she's like got her head back and she's just like, oh, I just never thought of this. And Christine's sitting next to her like, no, we would fight for them. Are you kidding me? Like those are our kids.
And I
And
feel like
so
that had to be, even just the sentiment had to be a little bit reassuring. Like nobody likes to contemplate what would happen if they were to pass early, you know, and nobody likes to think about those kinds of things. But just to know that like Christine loves Robin's kids enough that she'd be like, no, we would want them to stay with the family. That has to give some kind of comfort.
And that's what I was kind of thinking. Even though you don't see it on her face in that conversation, she still seems kind of lost in like the little bit of anxiety about it. Like I have to imagine hearing that probably hit her, knowing what a feeling person she is too. It probably hit her a little bit to be like relief.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's something that they resolve later, and thankfully they never have to like resort to like where Robin Kid's gonna go.
Right.
But it's got to be. And then it becomes more complicated when she has kids with Cody.
Right.
On top of that all. But
yeah. They had a lot of really stressful life things in this episode.
Yes.
I felt.
Mm-hmm. Really confronting their mortality in this one.
Yeah.
A lot of what we see in this, a lot of time is spent in the doctor's office in this episode. Cody and Meri always together, which I thought was nice. Like, you don't need someone to accompany you to a colonoscopy, I don't think. Like, maybe to pick you up.
Yeah,
but
I mean, like, my dad has had them before, like, but I mean, the last one he had was like during COVID, I think. So like, my mom waited in the car, kind of deal, you know. But yeah, I mean, I think just someone to drive you home.
It seemed like he took very seriously her concerns about, because this could be genetic, her risk is higher, what happened to her sister. It seemed like he took that very seriously. And while it was like very sweet and like like just knowing the way their relationship changes, it's just so. And I just thought of another thing. I mean, I assume this is like a local clinic that was like a short drive away from where they live, but if we fast forward to season 16, if anybody doesn't want to hear it, don't listen to this part. But season 16, when Isabel goes under a much more serious procedure, he does not join them. Granted, that's across the country. Granted, it's during COVID. Like there are like other things, but this is like a in and out procedure where like
it's a routine. I mean,
yeah,
you know, like
you
I know
don't
it's
even go
scary.
fully under.
Like, yeah, like it's really scary that the risk of like the cancer and stuff, but it is a routine procedure. Like it's not like you have to have a hospital stay for it or something, you know.
Right. Just the difference, I guess.
I wrote that down too. That I was like, I just wrote like a little side note. I was like, I'm kind of sad seeing how Meri and Cody used to be, and just how, I mean, like he was completely her husband here, you know, like just completely,
and like a really good husband,
yeah.
I would say. Yeah,
and it just made me sad. I'm like, because that's just not.
It makes you remember. It makes it like puts a finer point on like Meri's dedication to staying. Because like part of me is like, because I feel like for so many seasons it was not great, and I'm like, whatever. Everyone, the audience is like, get out of here, girlfriend. Like you can do it. Like you don't need to stick around. Mariah's grown up. You're kind of got your own thing going on. Like do it. But then she has the hope of this life that she did have, I think, with Cody at one point. And I hope. I mean, it's not too late. They're not old adults. Like they're like in their 50s now. Things can change. I just hope he hasn't sold that relationship down the river already and just said like it's easier with Robin, because that's kind of the leading theory. I feel like with a lot of.
I think he has, but I mean, I'm not him, so I can't say for sure. But
he could have an ephany or something. Maybe he'll watch season 1 and be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I used to be nice."
Yeah, send Cody some clips of early days and just see if that jogs his memory and makes him feel a little nostalgic for what was.
It could happen. We got more seasons coming.
Yeah.
As if that's the only thing that matters, is that we have a season to watch.
Right. That's the only determining factor, really.
Does their life move forward if it's not being filmed for us to watch?
Does the tree make a sound if it crashes?
That's a good analogy, actually. So we meet Dr. Uma Karnam. Really enthusiastic gastroenterologist, if I said that correctly, maybe. He comes in real hot and heavy with the handshake, introduces himself. he seems empathetic. He seems like a sweet guy. I'm happy that he's caring for Meri.
Was that not
I
like
don't
the
know.
coziest doctor's office you've ever seen?
Yeah, it seemed pretty homey.
Mm-hmm.
Very 2000s homey, does like comfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
So question, you haven't had a colonoscopy, have you?
No.
No.
I mean, the thought, I don't blame Meri for not wanting to do it because it just doesn't sound pleasant, but.
Yeah. Well, I looked it up just to make sure I was clear on like what this procedure is, and it is a camera up your butt, like through and it up through your intestines, across, and then down, and then in. So it's like a whole loop de loop they do in your like bowels, in your intestines to get to your colon, to like then have this little camera with lights and a camera and an air poofer so it can like blow air, and a water squirter, and on top of that, as we'll see, there's a little hole where tools can pop out, like a multi-tool. Like there's a loop that can loop, and a little like grabber guy, like a
That kind of
little.
shocked me.
Yeah, yes, it was not as like slick as it's just kind of like a little, just a little like you picture those claw stick grabbers that old
Yep.
people have to like. It was basically like a little mini one of those that just grabbed on the side of her colon and ripped off a
Yeah.
chunk.
And I was like, doesn't that hurt though? Like, I mean, I know they're like not, it wouldn't hurt while they're doing it because they're like sedated and have pain meds or whatever, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that hurt after? You like.
I watched a video on YouTube about
Oh my
it.
goodness.
And I was told, because I was like, I kind of like, this is weird and gross, I kind of liked that footage of being in there, and I'm like, what's it look like when they find like a large polyp? Like, I want to see them like excavate that, or like scraping. Like, I was impressed with the cleanliness of her colon, because I always thought there'd be like more debris in there.
Oh no, they give you stuff to clean it out before.
I just didn't think it would be that clean. I thought it like gets the majority of what's in there out, but it was like shiny clean inside of her colon and her intestines.
Gorgeous colon.
Good job, Meri. And she had two small polyps, and they were they said there's no nerves on this video I watched. There's no nerves in a polyp.
Oh, so that would make sense then, that it wouldn't hurt you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I thought too. I thought that would like pinch at the very least, like a little sore, like also an open like wound in your colon. You would think, but
yeah, like you'd be bleeding or something after pulling that little thing.
You would
off.
think. You would think. I guess I am like imagining it kind of like a skin tag.
Maybe.
Like they can be removed without blood. I'm pretty sure.
Hopefully, the listener likes this deep dive into colonoscopy.
Sorry. It is an episode about colonoscopy, so if that makes you uncomfortable, maybe don't skip it. Just turn the volume on low.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, trigger warning for
colonoscopies.
Hell. Because so I guess we'll come back to. I have more colonoscopy information, but we'll save a little. That'll just be a little teaser for later. Right. I've got more.
Stay tuned, listener.
Because I think we kind of transitioned to like this party prep where they're rearranging furniture for the party.
And then it was so cute. So they're doing the party at Robin's house, and Meri and Christine arrive there, and Christine has to bring Truly, and it's like kind of inconvenient for her to bring Truly to this. And Meri's like, "Oh, you could have left her home with Mariah." And Christine's like, "She just got this cute new outfit. I am not leaving her home."
And then we saw the outfit, and I was like, meh, underwhelmed.
What impressed me was Truly sitting on the counter like a perfect baby doll.
She's just so used. She knows how to play the role at this point. She's just like, I'm their plaything, and that's how this.
They pass me around.
Pretty much. And another baby does show up, so I was kind of happy to see that there was multiple babies even though the other baby was like a tiny new one.
The tiniest baby. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like you couldn't even. There's like that whole. They have those covers they put over the car seat that has like a little face window in it, and you could barely see her like looking into that.
Her small little head.
Yeah, looking into that like hole in the car seat cover. So yeah, they're prepping. They're moving furniture. There's debate about how the couches should be arranged. It felt like they were getting ready for like a college party almost. The way they're like, we need to open up this floor space and like line the wall with the couch. Yeah, yes. And it was like they're like laying on the floor to like measure. I was like, okay, ladies. Curious how this goes. And we kind of cut back to some of the discussion on the couch, about the couch confession, about like their experiences with hiding their polygamy, they're basically their lifestyle and their religion. And Christine describes the situation. Did you have this next as well?
About Logan and
Yeah. She talks about how there's a situation where McKelty was getting teased at school, and Logan kind of spoke up and said, "Hey, leave my sister alone." Side note, so Logan.
yeah,
That I believe that 100%.
right.
And then he realized after he said that what he had done in quotes, like kind of revealed, because Logan is Janelle's son and McKelty is Christine's daughter. So at school, they're not like openly siblings because that makes them polygamous. So that was like he was like nervous about having revealed the family, and they didn't say what age this was. Did you?
No, they didn't. And well, I mean, I was just thinking like it's weird that I don't know if kids maybe did put it two and two together, like because they all have the last name Brown, those stuff, and maybe they were just like
They all look alike.
yeah. I mean, so like I think about my sister Lisa. She works in a middle school, and she it's funny like the kids are there's like a little kid in like fourth grade who's still in elementary school but has the same last name as her, and all of her like students come up to her and they're like, that's your son, right? And she's like, no, it's not. They're like, you have the same last name, so I mean definitely is your son. She's like, nope, just coincidence. So I just feel like they would naturally maybe kind of think that,
Yeah,
you know.
that's a good point. I didn't think of the last names. I thought about how they're all like probably together all the time and look the same.
And they all are
Because
on the
they all,
same
I mean,
bus ride home.
yeah, and they all get off the same bus stop. Like I'm like, there's not. It wouldn't take a genius to like connect the dots,
Yeah.
but still, I mean, you could see where he was like pressured to like not be. And maybe it's a thing of like it's kind of understood, like everyone does know at school, but like they have to have like deniability. You
They
know,
just
like
don't
we
say
can't.
it. Like it's an
Yes,
unspoken thing.
yeah, that's. I assume it must be because like again, you'd have to be kind of dumb to not put these clues together. Um, but it was sweet. I mean, it's sweet to hear of Logan defending his sister and
Yeah.
like just pretty much sounds about right.
That's
But
like classic Big Brother stuff there. And I mean
mhm,
that's who he is, you know, like you
yep.
said.
I thought I appreciated during this conversation when they were talking about like hiding their identities, and the reason Janelle kind of says it like, and people think when they hear polygamy and they hear about fundamentalist Mormons, they are thinking of these women without voices and the underage marriages. And for some reason, it feels like they just so don't like shine a light on that at all on this show. Like they act like it's our like they act like they're they don't understand at all why people don't have bad impressions of who they are in their faith and stuff. And it's like feels like, come on guys, like we know there is an ugly side of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not. So I appreciated that Janelle like even though it was quick and they didn't even really discuss it, how she did like identify like yes, and this is why
Well,
there's a bad rap.
even in like we've been watching Under the Banner of Heaven too. Even that though, where the LDS Mormons in the show and stuff are, it's almost kind of like they have to really search for this information about polygamy and like polygamous compounds and stuff. And like it just seems like it's not as well known to them either. And I don't know if that's the case. I mean, I feel like they have to be aware of each other. Like there's been such a divide in the church of fundamentalists versus LDS. Like it just they have to be aware. Like they can't just like pretend like that doesn't exist or be like we don't know anything about that. You know, like it's odd.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely it makes me more comfortable when they also identify it and
Mm-hmm.
don't kind of play this weird like gaslighting game of like I don't know why anybody
Mm-hmm.
has a problem with this. It's like, well, there's some well publicized reasons why.
Yeah, and it's not just a matter of being like hateful of anyone who's different. Like it's being
Yeah.
genuinely concerned that there are little girls being married to 70-year-old men.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
so that I mean that's a legitimate concern. Sorry.
And basically women in captivity in a lot of like
Yeah,
for all intents and purposes. So
exactly.
yeah, I mean, Under the Banner's got some pretty gnarly descriptions of some pretty dark scenarios that have happened in this culture. So like, yeah, again, I just even though it was not much, I think later there is an episode where they meet with like survivors in this of bad polygamous situations. So like they do also like
address it
they
more.
do go they get into that more and have a whole episode I think dedicated. I
I'm
think if I recall.
excited to rewatch that. I think
Yeah,
that'll be really interesting. So
me too. Oh, the grocery store run.
yeah.
So, and I think you're probably laughing for the same reason that it's not that the grocery store run is that like eventful. It's just funny and like kind of like a little mini filler. Christine, Meri, and Robin are going to the grocery store. We see little clips of it, and at the same time, they're kind of cutting back to the couch and describing their visit to the store. And the funniest, there's two things that I found hysterical. First thing was when they're walking through the parking lot, and Christine goes, oh, what did she say? The most lewd. She kind of catcalls these military men and are like, "There's some of our good boys," and I was just like, "Whoa!" It was not quiet.
No, and called them like the good boys. I was like, wow, that's like a 1940s kind of like come on
Someone like
or
good,
something.
yeah, like yeah, like hey there, good boy. Like what's like, it's just like so
Hey there,
like
sailor.
yeah, yes. And it was so funny and like so shocked. Like I was surprised that she's so like broad about it, but it was like yeah, she basically catcalls these teenagers probably in the parking lot.
They're probably like, what the hell? There's
And there's
this
cameras
lady with a camera crew, and she's like
yeah,
catcalling us
and
while we're in
yeah,
our
and
military uniform.
um. And then they cut to the different clips at the grocery store where they're dancing in the aisles and they're being kind of silly and they're talking about how it's a girl party when all the girls get together. It's a girl party. And then we cut to Janelle and she's like, I'm hearing them talk about this visit to the grocery store and this is why I don't go to the grocery store. They're embarrassing. And I was like,
This is
yeah,
why I'm glad I
Janelle.
work so much.
I conveniently she acts like it's like part of her grand plan that she works a lot. Like I conveniently work all the time, so I can't go to the grocery store.
Every episode, Janelle's just more of a husband.
I know.
There are two
See,
husbands in this family. It's Cody and Janelle.
and Janelle kind of wears the pants. Like she's kind of she actually kind of is the one who's like got everything under control.
Yeah,
And that was another moment of me being like, we're kindred spirits.
I
I
thought of
can't
that with you.
not not just like going in public. Maybe usually when there's drinking involved. And there being like over the top behavior in public from friends and me just being like all right, let's just get the thing we're here to get and let's get out of here. I don't need to you're not supposed to climb those shelves. Like I'm just like this is or don't touch that, like we're not leave that alone. And then
Exactly
I'm
my
just trying
sister too. Like she's the same exact. Like you guys have a lot of similarities.
that's funny.
So,
But yeah, I related. Felt seen by Janelle. Let's see here. Meri kind of explained. We're kind of back to the colonoscopy, I believe. We got. I mean, and that's when I was like, "Is colonoscopy what I think it is?" Because I was like, maybe they go through your throat. Maybe I was unclear on what the colonoscopy. Like, no, we are watching Meri with a tube up her butt in this live footage. Like, there it is live happening on the screen. There's a little scope, so we know that she's laying on her side, and they have a whole thing. I'm like, good for you, Meri.
that's just not a moment in my life I would want documented, I guess. But
yeah, no, I didn't think so either. But good for her. I mean, she's kind of.
I mean,
Being
colon
the
health
spoke-
awareness, though. So and
important.
so it leads
Everyone
to a
does it.
discussion about it, and maybe people watching it can think about going to get their colonoscopy scheduled or whatever. So if it even just one person does it, it's a good outcome, I guess. So
For sure. And you see that it's kind of no big deal. Like she's sort of, it's like they keep you. I have two people in my life who are younger people who have had colonoscopies. One of them is my sister. Didn't ask her if I should mention that, but I think she's fine with it. It's because she had digestive issues for a while and they're just were trying it out. And she had to do her prep over Thanksgiving. So that was fun over at grandma's house. And she's like posted up in the bathroom.
Poor girl. And I don't think that stuff they give you to drink tastes good at all.
No, and you can't have like anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's like kind of salty.
Yeah.
It's like sort of so it's like supposedly tastes like Gatorade or something, but like
really.
So it's like in like gallons of it. You have to drink
like way more than you would drink anything normally. So
yes. And then I also I won't name her by name because I didn't ask her if I should, but one of my college roommates also had to have a colonoscopy when we were in college. And so I texted her just for some like insight. She was unprepared. I haven't talked to her in a few weeks. And so I just said, hey, you had a colonoscopy, right?
Random.
And she said yes, in 2019, I believe. So I had some questions just to see, like, is there anything I should share about the experience? And I said, was it eventful? She says, what do you mean by eventful? So I have to kind of explain, like, how was the prep? Were you away? Like, were you, because you're not, she said you're not all the way under for this procedure. Like,
Yeah,
you're
when
kind
you're
of
like
like
sedated.
just like asleep,
Yeah.
but like not out cold,
Yeah.
basically. I was like, so were you aware? Was there any like sensation? Like, she said no, she pretty much slept, so that was nothing exciting. But she did say that when you're doing hot tip for if everyone's getting ready for their first prep for the colonoscopy, never stay more than 5 feet from the bathroom. And then since you're not fully put under, they just kind of slowly wake you up. So we saw that with Meri, and they basically roll her out, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" And she's like, kind of coming to pretty quickly. So,
Yeah.
Robin, this I found funny. So just cutting back to our party prep, they're all cooking at Robin's house, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you have? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Robin talks. She's just very. You could tell she's got newbie energy, where she's just like, yeah, cooking is just a social event for women.
Yeah.
Like it's just so fun when women get together and they cook. And just from us knowing like where a lot of tension came from in these relationships with each other, all the sister wives, like a lot of it was kitchen centered. Like
Yep.
there was a lot of.
I know, because I was like,
just,
that has not been my experience with women in the kitchen. I think of like when I was a kid, you know, going to my grandma's house and stuff for Christmas and Easter and all that. And it would be kind of like everyone fighting to get their space in the kitchen and like coordinating together when you're not used to coordinate. Like it just, I mean, everything got done. Like we all got the meals done, but it wasn't like seamless, you know?
No. And how can it be? I just think about like the experience of cooking and like if you got multiple different things going on, like
You
there's
only have
one
so
oven.
big a kitchen, you know?
Yeah, and like too many like things going on. I don't know. So I thought that was funny and very like romanticized by her of like what this experience is like. And I'm kind of trying to watch Janelle and Christine's faces in the background because like I'm like I know they had a bad experience sharing a kitchen as like in the same household.
Yeah.
And Meri and Janelle, a lot of Meri and Janelle's like early tension came from the kitchen. Like I just know that that's a talking point later in later seasons.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wonder if they're gonna say anything. And Christine does say, I think later in the, or either in the kitchen or cut to the couch confessioning it. She goes, sometimes it's not a good time sharing a kitchen. And I was like, yeah, this seems like a newbie comment for Robin. And they always seem to put her on the spot. I don't know if it's because she just talks so much, if she's a real talker. She always seems to be the one explaining how things work and why things are this way. And it just seems very like naive sometimes.
You're just like, that's rich, Robin, coming in brand new, seeing how things are, like as though you know already.
Yeah. So, a small thing. Meri feels like there should be 3 tables set up. Robin feels that there should be 1 big table set up, like banquet style. And cut to Meri asking Cody if he likes 3 big tables or 1, or 3 tables or 1 big one. And she says, I don't like 3, but Robin does. And you see Cody's face, and he's just like,
oh shit! What do I say?
Not touching that. Like this seems like such a like a benign topic, but the way she set it up, like I don't like this, but Robin does. What do you? So
who do you side with here, Cody?
And he's just like,
nope.
Just that total like meme of like not touching that. No opinions here.
Well, I mean, because who was it saying it? I don't know. Maybe it was Robin saying it, that when Cody's around, or when Cody's not around, there's a better flow with the wives. And then when he is around, like we're all focused on him and not each other. And so then it's like kind of more competition.
And they're more worried about like hurting each other's feelings, which begs the question, are they hurting each other's feelings when he's not around? When like dad's away, they're like meaner to each other.
Like, are you just not noticing or caring as much then? Or...
And B, if things are so much better if Cody's not around,
I was like, what does that
why
say?
do we want him around? Yeah, it's just like,
But literally, I was like, okay, what does that say then? If it's better when he's not there, and because she's like, it's all
you
about the
know,
girls. Polygamy is all about the girls, but then like immediately retracts that by being like, but then when he's here, we're all about Cody. And I'm like, okay, chick, like I don't know if
that was
you've
a
got the
Robin.
polygamy thing down pat, Robin, like
Right.
enough to talk about it quite yet.
Yeah, it was a little. It was a little like so. Today, you and I are having a conversation at work about like things that people say that seem so like clearly a red flag or indicative of something going on, like of like another thing, and people will say out loud something like, "Yeah, when Cody's around, we have to be careful, and we don't, we're try to tiptoe around each other a lot more, and blah blah blah." And you look at someone saying that, and you're thinking, "So what is that telling you? Like you're saying these words coming out of your mouth." So what's the natural conclusion that you would draw? And it's like, but it's just not getting there. It's just not
what
coming to that
what
next thing.
was it that you said, like the empathy wheel or whatever, where they like almost get
Yeah.
almost get
Like,
there, and then they
like,
like just stop
nope.
short of that.
And it seems like such an easy like next step to take, and just some reason it just doesn't get there.
I feel like it's
So
honestly with them, I feel like it's willful ignorance because come on,
yeah,
like they're
yeah,
not dumb. Like
no,
you just
yeah.
have to purposely be like, I'm gonna take that little piece and put it in a box and put it in the closet and not look at it. Like
I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. There's so many things you could say that about in life,
which,
but yeah, for
but yeah, I just think like it's easier to be like, oh, it's easier when Cody's not around. Nope, don't think about that too hard.
um, I thought that the friend gathering actually was very sweet.
Mm.
Didn't it seem
They seem like,
fun? They're laughing.
yeah, and like the way they're greeting them and stuff. Some people maybe they hadn't seen in a while, and everybody seemed to get along pretty well. So
Yeah, it actually turned out like pretty natural seeming, even though it seems so unnatural of like an idea. But they're big hugs and all this, everyone greeting each other, and they all kind of have like a few of them have some nice things to say, like about how they like just reached out to them when they found out in other ways about Meri at work or Janelle at work, who is a polygamist. They like texted him saying like, "This is awesome, like good for you, like blah blah blah." Supportive and like sweet family or friends, I should say. But one thing, um, Robin's buddy from middle school, and we saw all these pictures of like baby Robin with her friend who like had no idea she was a polygamist, and then one day she just told her when they
mm,
were younger, so she already knew.
yeah,
I thought that was sweet, and also Robin's from like Montana or something. So has this girl come all the way from Montana for a dinner? It was my second thought.
maybe she came for like a weekend though too. Like
Yeah,
and then
like a
the dinner
visit.
was part of it. But yeah, I thought it
Yeah.
was nice too that like Janelle's saying she's like, yeah, when it came out, that we were polygamists, and she's like, all my coworkers were kind of like staring at me a little bit, like around the cubicles, and she's like, but then other people started, messaging her, telling her about like their different non-traditional family setups, and she's like, so it was kind of like a camaraderie there of like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
we maybe aren't polygamists, but we have like a different setup in our family too. And I was thinking there might be plenty of people who were like same-sex couples or something, same-sex
Hmm.
families, and this time too, like again, gay marriage wasn't legalized at that time either. So I mean, it maybe was something. I don't have a lot of point of reference, I guess, but I don't know if what it'd be like having a couple that was not legally married and then having children, and if those concerns of the same thing, if one of them were to pass away and stuff, like who
Hmm.
legally gets the kid, probably kind of
Yeah.
similar stuff to polygamy.
Dealing with a lot of similar challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I did say that the same actor who's playing Dr. Uma seems to be playing their friend Daniel. I don't know if you noticed the guy at the party, like just like the doctor.
The same actor.
Like no one will notice. It's a doctor. He's wearing a lab coat, and then he's just having dinner.
Double time this week.
And yeah, that's kind of it. Just seems like a nice, warm gathering of friends.
Cody's whole where he talks about the decision to go public, and he's like that from the passage in the Bible. Is it in the Bible where hide it under the bushel? Did you ever sing that song in church as a kid?
No.
Oh my god. Dang it, I thought you totally would have.
See, I went to a
This
modern
Little
type of
Light of
church.
Mine, did you not sing that song?
I don't think
Oh
so.
my
I know
god.
that I know the song, but we didn't sing it in
Oh,
church.
we'd
I
sing
think I
it in
just heard it
Sunday
on
school, and you'd be like pretending that you had a little fire, and you're like, hide it under a bushel, and then you'd like move your hand. No, I'm gonna let it
my.
shine. You
The
do
fact that
that.
it's a thumbs up is
Yeah,
very cute too. Like these kids
just a bunch
listening.
of little kids like, no, I'm gonna let it shine.
Yeah, the put your light on a candlestick, not under a bushel, was Cody's like big call to let his little light shine on his who he is and his beliefs. Oh, that was sweet. I mean, it's like seems pretty like fundamental.
I bet
Like
Cody knows
in
that song.
I would. I mean, I know it. I thought you were gonna literally say put your light on a candlestick, not under a bush. I thought you had like a hymn that maybe said that. The last thing I have basically is we get the results from the polyps. There's no cancer.
Yay.
She's good to go for 3 years. So standard kind of screening schedule, I think, for
I
colonoscopies.
think so. I was so glad the
Yeah,
doctor came in right away and was like, good news. Like,
he didn't play. He didn't
bless
like play
him.
that game.
Because that's
Hmm.
exactly that's all they want. Like nobody, they're already nervous as hell, so don't make them wait any longer. And he didn't, so that was really well done on his part. So.
And then the last scene is Cody and Meri on the couch, the confessional, like talking about how they feel about this good news, the relief. And Cody is staring at Meri so intensely. And they got the arm around each other, so they're very, very close. And he's
Mm-hmm.
turned to looking at her, saying, I should appreciate our time together. And then long pause to the point where she even seems kind of uncomfortable and laughs and she goes, I do. Haha.
Right.
And I was just like, this is did you have any thoughts on that?
Again, it was just like making me sad. Like
Yeah.
that was my main reaction. It was literally just like, I wish they could find their way back to that. Like, because I mean, he really did seem so invested and so caring, and just it was night and day from what we see.
And just like so loving of her, like so in love with her and appreciative of her presence in his life, and like he needs to appreciate being with her more. And it's just like, what a 180! Like,
Yeah.
holy smokes! Yeah, that is weird. It's crazy to see the juxtaposition from where we're at now,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, that's kind of where we close off. Is that scene of them on the couch.
Yeah.
And next week we get ready for. It seems like they might be teasing us, but it seems like there's a little more drama coming. So we'll see how that unfolds.
I feel like we've had a few weeks that have been lower drama, so I think we're
Yeah,
probably due for it.
yeah, we'll see. Um, if nothing else, it is like a Christmas episode, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Did you have any other like side note corner notes you had prepared? Because I have one thing.
Only thing, gotta keep an eye on my girl Truly. She was wearing some real cute overalls this episode.
Oh, I missed the overalls.
I'm
You really
my
got
eyes are on
more.
Truly.
You've got more of a focus on Truly than I do,
Oh,
I
I
guess.
do. So not a creepy way, but she is a delight. So
She is a delay. It's funny. It's just so funny because we know her as a tween now, and what just a character she kind of remains.
just
It's
always
just
from
funny
the
as hell
very start. So
from the jump.
what's your other note?
So, not about the episode. Transitioning out of that to